So I'd like to welcome everybody back to another OAO member spotlight. And today it's my pleasure to have Dr. Wes McCann, optometrist from London, Ontario. Wes is going to share with everybody his work with the Syrian refugee community in London, Ontario. So Wes, maybe give us a quick introduction of who you are.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Wes. I practice in London, Ontario. I own two practices here in London. Focus of my practice is a lot on the medical side of optometry. We do a lot of glaucoma and do a fair good mix of everything else, contacts, et cetera, et cetera. But we've been doing a lot of refugee exams as well in the last few years. So certainly getting a number of those exams under our belt as well.
Okay. So speaking of that, can you give us a little bit of an outline to the membership about some of the details of that program with the Syrian refugees?
Certainly. So the Interim Federal Health Program, or the IFHP, it's a program that's dedicated to the refugees immigrating to Canada. So the Syrian refugees that are coming over are completing immigration processing before traveling to Canada. So once they arrive here, they have their permanent residency status and receive Type 1 health benefits under the Interim Federal Health Program. So we call that IFHP. So they get a certificate which is valid for about 12 months once they arrive, and allows them access to optometric services such as a pair of glasses, a full eye exam, and a partial eye exam. And they also get prescription drug coverage listed under the Ontario Drug Benefit Plan. The IFHP is all administered under Medavie Blue Cross on behalf of Immigration and Refugees of Citizenship Canada.
So Wes, how did you as an optometrist get involved in seeing Syrian refugees?
So my business partner has been a member of the program for many years, and when I joined the practice a number of years ago, I graduated in 2012 from Nova Southeastern University and moved back to London. So when I graduated and moved back home, I enrolled in the program as well. Now I see probably about 3 or 4 refugees a day in our clinic, so we have a fair number coming into London. So see about 3 or 4 a day, and last year saw a good mix of refugees from the Middle East and Nepal, and now this year mostly all Syrian refugees.
So what does participation in the program involve? Can you give us a few more details day to day in your practice?
Sure. So in London, we've developed a really good relationship with the Cross-Cultural Learning Center here, CCLC, and they coordinate all of the refugee appointments with our office staff. So CCLC arranges the appointment with our office staff, and then either the caseworker or a volunteer translator comes to the office with the patients during their visit and is able to translate all the exam and instructions and dispensing and everything like that. All the billing's done through Blue Cross Blue Shield, so all online, submitted online, and we are able to get real-time approvals for the patient coverage before we start the exam or before we dispense any glasses. So the patients just need to bring in their IFH paperwork and bring that to their appointment along with their OHIP card. So the important thing is if they are qualifying for OHIP, if they're a patient that qualifies for OHIP, so 19 or under, 65 or older, glaucoma, diabetic, things like that, you need to bill OHIP. But if they're not covered underneath OHIP, then you're able to bill the IFH program. For dispensing, they do pay for single vision and bifocal glasses with no coatings or anything like that. But we've developed a specific selection of frames that they can choose from in our practice, and those ones are fully covered under the IFH program. And then if they want to go outside of that group of frames, then they can certainly pay the difference on the price tag. So they get a certain coverage amount and then pay the difference. Again, if they wanted coatings or transitions or anything like that, they would pay that above and beyond. Most don't because they're, again, just getting settled here in Canada, but they have that option if they want to.
Yeah. Great. Can you speak to some of the practice challenges you've had in dealing with serving this population in your practice?
Sure. Actually, it's been quite an easy process for us. CCLC here in London has been very easy to work with. They're great with the patients. The patients are also grateful when they come, and us giving care, they've been very grateful with that. The Syrian refugees have been fantastic. I would say that when we had a lot of the Nepal refugees before, those were more of a challenging patient base. Culturally, they tended to be a little bit late, etc. So that was more challenging before, but the Syrian refugees have been excellent. We went through a little bit of a time where we had trouble with them getting their paperwork to us. They tended to forget their paperwork, but once we got that sorted out with their caseworkers, it was much easier. I can understand why it was challenging for them. They don't speak any English when they come to Canada, and they're told to bring certain paperwork to an exam when they can't read it or figure out what paperwork is which. So it was challenging for a little while, but we've got it sorted out now.
Okay. So what are some of the benefits, I guess, to you personally as an optometrist, and I guess to your practice overall with seeing these patients?
Sure. So it's certainly a very rewarding experience to be able to assist and give care to these patients after they've just been through such a difficult crisis in their life. So many of these refugees are really quite educated people and very intelligent. Numerous patients of mine that were refugees are engineers, professors, teachers, and are just looking forward to getting established here in Canada, learning English, and becoming productive members of society again. So I think they're going to be very loyal patients to our office down the road because we're familiar to them and we were there for them and welcomed them to Canada and helped them get started.
Right. So short term, you're helping them out with their needs. You know, they need to see well to learn to integrate into Canadian society. But I guess there's a long term view as well. It's a practice builder. You feel these patients are going to remain loyal to you and your practice.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's a great opportunity to build that relationship with them now, especially when they're just getting to Canada. And we've had many actually referrals from friends of theirs that have been in Canada for a while that end up coming to our office now as well.
Right. Great. Any tips you can give to members that may want to become involved, just like you have?
Sure, yeah. Definitely we found it very beneficial to schedule these patients at least 30 minutes in advance of their actual appointment time with us. So if their appointment time with me was at 2 o'clock, we tell them that they need to arrive at 1:30 for their appointment so that they can process their paperwork through translation, so that our staff at the front desk can process all their billing and paperwork before they see us to make sure that they're eligible. And again, to give a little bit of leeway time for if those patients are late, et cetera. So giving that 30-minute buffer has certainly been very beneficial to us and ends up putting them pretty much right on time to see us 30 minutes later. I would suggest, if you can, after you've seen a number of these patients, to try to learn a few words in Arabic. Okay. It certainly helps them to feel at ease and puts them at ease when they are in our chair and a little more comfortable when they see us trying to speak a few words of their language. So I've learned how to say look up, look left, look right, look down, what's better, red or green, things like that. And they get a little chuckle out of it when they see me trying to speak Arabic, but it certainly puts them at ease. I'd also suggest not trying to book too many patients back to back in the office. Okay. These patients don't know a lot of people in Canada, so they tend to bring their entire family with them to a visit. So if you've scheduled 2 people back to back, you might have 8 to 10 people in your office show up. So usually I'd say don't schedule more than 2 people back to back, or no more than a family of 4, and try to spread out any more throughout the day if you're going to get more than that. But we generally get about 4 patients from the IFH program a day now.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Wes, thank you very much for coming on the show today and sharing your experience with serving the Syrian population with the rest of OAO members. I know it's a group of people that are coming from a very difficult situation, and all the help we can give them to integrate into Canadian society is fantastic. So obviously you've done a lot of things right. You've thought this through, both practice flow and how to reach out to, the folks in the community that help Syrian refugees integrate. So from an eye care perspective, I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
Okay. And just to remind everybody, we will put links in the show notes to the IFHP program and the OAO website that has all the details that Wes shared with us today. Okay. Thanks again, Wes. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.